My name's Claire. How are you? Hi, Mom.
Claire was my firstborn, and I didn't know what to expect. But when they came and put her in my arms, it was like God touched me with a magic wand, and I could feel this little ding on the head, and this warm sensation went through my body. And I knew at that moment I was transformed into a mother. You know, and I was so lucky because she never cried. She was just the best baby. But then after a few weeks, I began to wonder, why isn't she crying? She didn't develop like other children. So when it was time for her to sit up, I mean, she would take these beautiful pictures, but our hand is underneath her dress holding her up. And so you can't see that in the picture, but, you know, she's not sitting up by herself. She needed help crawling. I mean, she didn't crawl like other children. She just had this way about her. She loved to laugh, and she was really always, you know, smiley and happy baby. So I didn't really think too much about her having any kind of a disability or anything was wrong with her. She was 10 months old when she first started having seizures, so I knew something was wrong with them then. We started seeing a neurologist, and at the time, though, the type of medicine they put her on for her seizures didn't come in a liquid form, so I would just smash up the pills and put them in the back of her throat. Claire did not sleep on a bed. When she was old enough, she would crawl out of her crib and she would sleep on the linoleum floor or out on the concrete on the patio. She was just funny and cute. She was quirky. She loved to rock and spin things. But I still was not able to get a diagnosis of what was wrong with her. I had my son Scott. It was like she was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I mean, she would scratch him and she'd get to the crib and she'd throw him. And she got very aggressive after that. And we were driving in the car, and I wasn't too far from the university hospital, but Claire unbuckled her seatbelt and she unbuckled Scott's. And I could hear her doing something, so I slowed the car way down and started to pull over when she opened the door, and she threw Scott out of the car. And he was still in his car seat. I went straight to the hospital, and we got there, and Scott was fine. The car seat had taken the brunt of everything. He didn't get hurt. But by then I was so overwhelmed, I just said, I can't take her home. I just can't take her home. I can't keep Scott safe and alive with her. They arranged for her to go to the primary psychiatric unit. She went there where she was diagnosed with a seizure disorder, mental retardation, a compulsive obsessive disorder, and autism. She went to the group home when she was 7. I felt like I was giving up my world. I just felt, like, I was heartsick. Claire was diagnosed with autism. I didn't know what to think because I didn't know what autism was. But they were able to work on her behavior so I could bring her home for visits. Claire's neurologist kept telling me she would outgrow it. A lot of kids outgrow this. Don't worry. I went on, I didn't really think about, what's happened to Claire, what's going to happen, because I just figured she's going to outgrow it. When she graduated from high school, she was 21 years old. I just wanted her to walk across the stage with the other graduates, but they didn't let the special ed kids go with the regular ed. And so I put together a graduation party for her. And I invited all of her teachers from kindergarten on up, and I had her family, and we got her the cap and gown, and we had this wonderful party, and she, graduated from high school. But the night of that party, and then I was showing her her little diploma, and it hit me at 21. It took me 21 years to realize that this is Claire. She's not going to outgrow it, that this is how she's going to be for the rest of her life. And I just started crying, and it was really hard. But it's okay because she's Claire and I'm her mom. It was January of 2000. Claire was 24 years old. She was sitting in a chair and she just wasn't moving, and that's not like her. And so I asked her, I said, Claire, what's the matter? I think I need to go to the doctors. We took her over to Cottonwood Hospital and they did a scope. And he started pulling, he pulled out 12 pens and pulled out a bracelet. He came back out to us and he says, you know, there's too much stuff in her stomach. And they said her stomach was 4 times the size of a normal stomach. And he said, you know, I'm going to recommend you just let her go home and let nature take its course. Next day I called her caseworker and I just said that they had told me to let her go home and let nature take its course, but I wasn't willing to accept that. So I called up at LDS Hospital and talked to a doctor up there, and he said he would be willing to do it. He wouldn't guarantee anything because it was such a sensitive nature. There was a pin that was actually protruding her stomach, and how she didn't die from that, I don't know. He went in and they said it was going to be like a 6-hour surgery. And then I just said a prayer and I just asked that she be okay. But after I had said this prayer, the nurse came out to talk to me. And the nurse ended up being one of my neighbors.
I was involved in Claire's operation. I worked in the operating room at LDS Hospital. And just happened to be the nurse the charge nurse for her operation.
And I knew at that moment Claire was going to be okay. I took that as God saying, you know, Claire's going to be okay, and here's the person that's going to take care of her.
It's serious. You run a risk of getting peritonitis because anytime you open the stomach or the bowel or anything into the abdominal cavity, there's a high risk of infection. And like especially in this case, a lot of times when we're going to operate on the stomach, we do a bowel prep, but because of the nature of her condition, we couldn't do a bowel prep, so it had a high chance of a contamination.
But so the operation only took 4 hours instead of 6. They got a total of 91 objects out of her stomach.
Everything went remarkably well under the circumstances.
But she had to stay in the hospital for a while, but her hands, she had to be restrained because she had a central port in her and she had these staples in her and she just kept trying to pull them out. And the doctor said, now that she's had this surgery, that piece of her stomach is now going to be brittle. And so if she continues to eat pens or she eats things, that piece of her stomach will just break. And so everything now for her to eat is life-threatening. But now it's been 13 years. She still has that obsession.
Don't eat objects. Look, a ball.
I mean, she's taken care of as far as her group home, and she's got a very nice apartment. She likes it and everything.
I love my group home.
I just think she'll be in the group home for the rest of her life. And then, like I say, now she comes home on weekends for visits, and well, every other weekend right now. And then I would just hope somebody would pick that up
When Paul and I are no longer around. She goes to day training 5 days a week. Open the car door. Open the car door.
Hey, Shelby. I'm gonna behave so I can take this home.
That would be so awesome.
I'm gonna behave so I can take this home.
That's awesome, Claire.
Not in the belly.
Why not?
Because I want to take my bottle home.
That's right.
Right?
Because we are safe and healthy, right?
I'm gonna behave so I can take it home. Right? This is my reward. right? And I might behave with my bottle.
Why does Claire have pica? Why does she eat the things she does? That's my question. Maybe this documentary will help someone who has the same problem, that they are not alone. Or maybe someone will have an answer for Claire. She still loves fun activities, and she has her own special way about her.
You can take this to show your friends.
Yes, you may.
It's a wand. I get to show it to my friends. Green glasses.
Green glasses? And where do you wear those?
To JST.
You like wearing your green glasses?
It makes me happy. It just makes me happy.
Well, I think at the time I didn't know, but I think now that I have the patience to still love her unconditionally. And I'm not saying that I'm always happy with her, and I don't get angry at her, but I always love her no matter what. I always love her. And she's I think she's a reason that I'm here, that I'm here to take care of her, and she's here to teach me patience and understanding and kindness.
G-R-E-E-N, not the belly,
All right. Good job.
Why not in the belly?
because we don't want her hurt. I love my mother. My mother loves me.